Welcome to the Community Connections Podcast with Jeff Newgard. Jeff is the president and CEO of Bank of Idaho. As an experienced community leader with a demonstrated history in the banking industry, he is fascinated with authentic and real conversations and establishing long-term relationships. Community Connections with Jeff Newgard podcast is Mr. Newgard's opportunity to do just that. Connect with local business owners and leaders to hear their stories. Jeff's slogan is "People Bank with People." With that, sit back, relax, and listen to the unique stories of your neighbors, colleagues, friends, and community connections.
Today our guest is Kevin Greene, President and General Manager of the Idaho Falls Chukars.
Kevin, thank you so much for taking the time today. Just love our partnership and with the Chukars, and you've been so instrumental in since I got to town and in our having events out there, and now we get to have a little suite and have entertaining our clients and our employees.
Great. I'm glad you've been able to take advantage of that. I'm glad we had one to offer you. They don't pop up very often.
No.
And I, too, am very grateful for the relationship we've established with you guys. And I was trying to think how far back that goes. And the only thing I could tell you is it goes back where we do our banking with you to when you were the Bank of Eastern Idaho. So
gosh, you go back that far?
Yes.
That's great. So you've been a very loyal customer, and
a lot of years.
Well, we've had a great partnership.
I agree.
I mean, I love the Chukars. Big fan. And you had a great year.
We had a wonderful year. That
had to be a high to go. What an experience.
It was. You know, the ballpark was built in 2007, and that year was just incredible. We drew a record 105,000 visitors to the ballpark. This year we drew just under 103,000, second highest all time. But unofficially we even drew more than opening day because we had 3 playoff games this year.
Oh, yeah.
We had the exhibition game that was almost a full house, and we picked up 2 games from Missoula when their field was unplayable after a Mumford & Sons concert. So we actually had 6 more home games that didn't even count into our attendance this year.
Gosh.
So that number is really up closer to about 115,000.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And you've been with the Chukars how many years? A long time.
Yes, I just finished my 27th year, going back to 1993, my first year when I moved out from a little town in northern New York. So.
Yeah. I love the story about how you got into baseball. You've always loved baseball.
I did.
And tell me how you got your start.
I actually thought I was going to become a phys ed teacher, so I went to a state university in New York in Brockport, New York, which is right outside of Rochester, and I was getting ready to embark on my student teaching experience, and I had an advisor ask me one simple question: what are you passionate about?
Yeah.
And I never thought of that in terms of career opportunities, so I said, baseball. And he said, well, that's very interesting that you mentioned that, because there's a team right in Rochester, a AAA team, who's looking for people to come work in their front office as interns. I'm going to set you up for an interview, he said.
Wow.
And I said, well, I wouldn't know the first thing about it. Take the interview. And I hit it off great with those guys, and I was full-time there just a few months later.
Yeah.
After my internship.
What
and I've been
life,
doing it ever since.
Life-changing.
I know. One question.
One question.
Yeah. And if I didn't say baseball, I'd probably be a retired phys ed teacher by now.
That's right. Well, what a dream it is to be able to do something you're so passionate about.
It's what's made it fun, and the job is so interesting because you never do the same thing 2 days in a row. There's just so much to do, and it's so seasonal.
Isn't there, just by hanging out with you times at the field, there's a special culture with minor league baseball.
It's a fraternity. It really is, and it's a lot of fun. And the young people I bring in, who also, I hire most of my full-time people, as do most minor league teams. They hire their people very often through these internships, which you bring a kid who comes out of college, doesn't know what he wants to do, and in most cases, within a month, they're hooked. This is what I want to do. I get to go to a baseball stadium every day to go to work. And one day I'm helping out on the field, and the next day I'm in taking care of corporate sales, and the next day I'm working inventorying in the gift shop or helping out in food and beverage. So we include everyone in our staff in all areas of our operation, which is what kind of keeps it fresh.
Oh, yeah. So you were working the front office. How did you get your next step?
I worked, when I started with the Red Wings in 1984 as an internship, as an intern, they put me in charge of public relations. Stats were a lot different then. Now it's all taken care of through minor league and Major League Baseball has their own stat department. But back then, you would have to do stats by hand, and you had to, during the game, I'd run the press box and I was loading up, all the stats came through on ticker tape.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a whole different generation, and it all changed from mid 80s to late 80s when all of a sudden you had fax machines and everyone had and started to get laptops and stuff like that. But yeah, it was, when I first started, it was calling people and handwriting stats down, and then we get the season over, and then I just became a business person just like everyone else, selling sponsorships, selling season seats, selling billboards and things like that. And if you can either take a liking to the sales portion of it and find a career in it, but in minor league baseball, because you have to do everything, the sales are really important. So if you never take to that, you'll never really be successful.
Yes. So then you go from the AAA. How did you make your break into minor?
Well, AAA is the highest level in minor league baseball, and I worked there from 1984. I was with the Red Wings in Rochester, the Red Wings, through the '91 season. And after the '91 season, we had a general manager change. So I was working for all those years for a very good friend of mine who gave me my first job in baseball. He moved to take another job, and they brought in a new general manager. And I was promoted to the assistant GM, but he and I didn't really click. It didn't last very long, so under the new GM, I saw the handwriting on the wall, so I applied for a job and became the assistant general manager in Norfolk, Virginia.
Oh.
For at that time, they were called the Tidewater Tides, a Mets affiliate. Okay. And then I worked down there, and then I wasn't there very long, and my old boss from Rochester calls me. He says, "Kevin, I know you want to be a general manager. I've got the opportunity for you." And this was in the fall of '92. Okay. He says, "Meet me in Idaho Falls." And so I flew out here.
Do you know where it was?
I knew it was somewhere in Idaho. I figured that. But so I says, "Well, let's take a look at it." So I flew out here and spent 3 or 4 days with him and a couple of their staff people. We walked through the ballpark, and we tried to get a feel for, is it going to be a workable scenario? And I flew back, and my wife Bridget and I were engaged at that time.
Gosh,
so I just so I said, "We're moving to Idaho," and she wasn't crazy about that, but here we are, and there's no regrets. It's worked out great for both of us.
Oh, that's great. So it's your only GM position?
Correct. And I thought, when you take something like this, you're thinking 3, 4 years down the road, you get back east where your family is and your wife's family, and I thought it was important to work in AAA baseball because that's the closest level to the big leagues, but it's really not. In fact, I love where I'm at. The players, the coaches at this level are just so much more accommodating. You get some egos start to change when you get to AAA, because at that point you're dealing with a lot of guys that just got sent down from the big leagues and they're upset.
Oh.
So, hey, can you go out and do a player appearance for me at here or there? And well, I was in the big leagues. I was getting paid thousands of dollars to do that.
Yeah.
Not in the minor leagues. So you're dealing with some different egos at AAA, and rookie ball is just so much easier.
Oh, well, and you have great ownership too that loves you and it has a great network. Right?
Yeah, Dave Elmore. In fact, you met Dave's son DG here in this office, and his grandson Gant, who are very active in our day-to-day operations. Dave's stepping back a little bit, but he's 85, and he bought the Idaho Falls Braves in 1986. And has owned it ever since.
Oh, gosh, a long time.
Yep.
So as you were coming up, you obviously had a passion for the game and a love for it. Did you ever have any times along the way that were like setbacks or kind of tough times?
No, maybe I've been pretty lucky. I kind of, my last year in Rochester, I knew my time there was going to be short-lived.
Yeah.
It wasn't working out. And Norfolk was a little bit different too for me. And then when I got that call where it's an opportunity, I immediately jumped. So I did make 2 moves pretty quick right in a row, but it all worked out for the best.
Oh yeah.
So it could have turned bad, but it really didn't. So I guess I'm lucky.
Yeah, yeah. So now, with the Chukars, you were talking about having all these young people come and work, and then they find the passion for the game. Do you find opportunity to mentor some of these folks?
I think so. I'm the old guy that's been doing this since 1984, and we've got a pretty good reputation. So I get young people there. Yeah, they're eager to learn, and I think I can share some pretty good information with them. And they know also, because within our ownership group, there's a number of other minor league teams that Dave Elmore owns, that there's other opportunities within the organization. So you do a nice job here. If you're my number 4 guy, might not be a whole lot of career growth here, opportunities here for you, but maybe there is if we were to bring you down to our San Antonio operation, or the team that we have in San Bernardino, or the new team that they just moved to Amarillo.
There you go. Yeah. Oh, a lot more opportunity.
There is.
It appears. So one of the exciting things, you were mentioned in a book.
Yes, I was. Did I tell you about that, or did you find it?
No,
it was called Getting in the Game. My first, back in Rochester, we had a young broadcaster who ended up going on to, his name's Josh Lewin.
Yes.
Josh ended up going to Northwestern University as a broadcast. And gosh, he's been broadcasting games for, over the years, the Mets, the Cubs, the Tigers, the Texas Rangers. He does, San Diego Padres. So he's been all over the place, and he decided to write a book. And because we had the relationship, he featured me in a fair amount of that book. I don't know if I guess I could endorse the book. It's called Getting in the Game by Josh Lewin. And if I know you, come by and borrow it. There's some pretty funny parts in there.
Oh, I bet. I'd love
There's
to
some
read.
funny parts in there.
Yeah, any that you'd like to share? Any good stories?
I don't know. It all depends who's going to see this. No, you just have to read it. But there's one section where we have a round table, and some things get brought up that probably shouldn't have been in the book that were, which is kind of humorous.
Yeah.
And then there was a nice segment in there. A good friend of mine named Bill Terlecki, who gave me my first job.
Yes.
And Bill, who just passed away 2 months ago, he gave me my first job. He was featured in the book pretty prominently. His name's Bill Terlecki, and I'll miss him dearly.
Oh, I bet. So was he one of your mentors, would you say?
He was, absolutely. When I first got hired in Rochester, we had co-GMs. It was Bill Terlecki and another guy named Bob Gaughan. Okay. Bill ended up leaving about a year later, and he kind of bounced around. He had jobs across the country working for different minor league teams, but he and I always stayed in touch. And we look forward to seeing each other at the winter meetings each year, and just talking about baseball and how we're doing.
Yeah, so what kind of things, what were top things you learned from him and that you still carry?
Well, what we do is so detail-oriented, and that's probably true of so many businesses out there, but our business just seems to be so detail-oriented, and it's about relationships, as we all know in business. What we do, it sounds like we're, it's a sports team, but really I'm a business guy. The way our affiliation is with the Kansas City Royals, the Royals take care of all the players and the coaches and the staff. I don't have to do anything with player development. So I'm in charge of running all day-to-day business operations. So what I learned was the right way to do business at a young age from Bill and Bob. Okay.
So they don't like red. They want you to make some money.
Oh, yeah, it's all about making money. We know that. But at the same time, it's also not about necessarily maximizing your profits. I'll give you an example. When I moved here in 1993, a general admission ticket was $5. Now it's $8 for an adult general admission ticket. For a full-price general admission ticket,
gosh,
let's keep it affordable.
Yes.
We operate our each year on a budget of under $1 million. It's a small business.
Yes.
It's 5 full-time guys and about 100 seasonal employees to work those 38 home nights. And that's what it is. And as soon as the season's over, you get down to a skeleton crew again and start preparing for next year. But yeah, we $8 tickets, and our most expensive ticket in the ballpark, a box seat's $12. And we just don't feel like it's necessary to go out there and charge a $20 or $25 ticket. And I think a lot of people would still see that as a good value, but it's not that important for us to maximize our profits as long as we do well.
Well, and the community really supports the Chukars as well, correct?
And that's so true. We're so well supported. You know, I've already talked about the attendance numbers, but
with corporations and I mean, we're one of those.
And we are kind of the only game in town. I mean, there are other things in this community we're supporting, but when it comes to spectator team sports, we're the only professional sports team in town that has, especially we're about the only one that probably has a full-time marketing department. So we're out there meeting sponsors every day. I'm meeting 4 and 5 sponsors every day.
Oh, gosh.
This time of the year,
Yes.
getting ready for a season that doesn't start till next June.
Yeah, yeah, so there's no dead spot.
Nope, not a bit.
Not much.
We'll shut down for the holidays for about 10 days.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. Well, there's a lot of news going on about minor league baseball right now. What are your thoughts on that? I know you're not an official spokesman for the minor leagues, but
Whatever I say, I'm going to preface by saying that minor league baseball has said if you have any media inquiries about the negotiations between Major League and minor league baseball, please direct them to minor league baseball's president's office and their director of communications. But I will say this much. What's going on is they're trying to negotiate a new 10-year deal, and that deal's called the Professional Baseball Agreement, and it's the agreement that establishes and lays out the relationship between a major league club and their minor league affiliate. And that 10-year agreement started off with Major League Baseball saying, we're coming up with a plan to eliminate perhaps as many as 42 minor league teams. Within those 42 teams, 8 of them are in the Pacific Northwest.
Okay.
It's the Pioneer League.
yes.
It means us and the other 7 teams in our league are theoretically all on the chopping block. But as minor league baseball will say, this is very, very early in the negotiations. Major League Baseball and minor league baseball will be meeting quite a bit on this. Both sides have a very good negotiating team, and we're hopeful that they can come together and keep us all doing what we do for the next 100 years.
Yeah, sure hope so. You make such a difference in our community. I just love going to the games and seeing all the community there,
Yeah.
because you make it so affordable, and you see corporations there. You see the entire community
and
cross-section.
there's a lot of people who might not necessarily have a lot of extra money to spend, but that's their summer entertainment.
Yeah.
I always say we're inclusive. We're not exclusive in any way, shape, or form. You don't have to have a lot of money to buy a $295 season seat, so you and your family can come out and watch 38 nights of professional baseball in June, July, August, and
Yeah.
September.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah.
So if you look back at your career, what are some of your biggest highlights?
The
Best
fun
memories?
the fun things are winning
Yeah.
championships. I've been worked for the Red Wings. We won a championship in 1988. We won one in 2000 or in 1990. Going to some different World Series. I was at the '98 World Series when we were the Idaho Falls Padres. Got to go down with some friends of ours, some mutual friends that you and I
Yes.
should have. You know, Kent Marbo and guys like
Yeah.
that, and our wives, and we just had a great time. We just won another championship. It's just so much fun to see the enjoyment of 35 guys celebrating winning the championship, and then me and all my young staff guys, and
Yes.
you know, popping corks and dousing each other with champagne bottles. It's great. It's such great fun.
Well, and you happen to have a little ring there.
Yeah, I do have my little ring on here. So I own my 2019 Pioneer League Championship ring
Yes.
for the Chukars will be my 9th ring. So I figured that's a career. So even if everything turns bad, I've done all right for myself.
Yes.
But in 2015, our Major League affiliate, the Kansas City Royals, won the World Series.
Yes.
And they graced all their minor league GMs with a real World Series ring. And it's beautiful, and I wear it every day. It's a great conversation piece.
Oh, yeah.
So of all those years in baseball, I have one World Series ring, and I wear it proudly. And all my others are in a safe deposit box.
That's great. That's great. So, so you've been here so many years. Was there ever a point in your career where you said, "Gosh, what's next? Do I need to make the next move up?" Or
I thought about that. In fact, my wife and I were meeting with DG Elmore, and we were talking about that because they bought a team in Lynchburg, Virginia, and they acquired that team in the Texas League in Amarillo, with a brand new stadium. And I didn't make those moves. And I was wondering, maybe should I push and ask, hey, the next time an opportunity like that comes, I would like to have the first shot at it. But now with the event center in the plans, Idaho Falls will have a hockey team here. And I will be part of that along with Dave Elmore. And so, in fact, when we leave here, I'll be going to another meeting for the Idaho Falls Auditorium District's advisory board to help finish off the funding so we can get this thing built and have hockey here by the fall of 2021. So that's my next big challenge.
Yes.
And I know I'll be expanding my staff, and I'll have an office in the event center, and I'll have my office at the ballpark, and I'll be going back and forth between the two.
Yes.
But that's a nice challenge I really look forward to.
Yeah. How are you going to balance that?
I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I think there'll be a little bit of crossover in staff, but there'll also be a couple guys that are dedicated just to baseball, and a couple guys or girls dedicated just to hockey. But on a higher level, be myself and probably Paul Henderson.
Yes.
We'll be the guys that are back and forth and overseeing both operations.
Yeah, Paul's been a good right hand for you.
Absolutely. Long time now, 11 years.
11 years.
Yeah.
That's great. So you're going to do the food and beverage there as well?
We'll have the management of the facility through a company that Dave Elmore, my boss, owns called Centennial Management. We'll manage it. Then the second business that we'll have in there will be the hockey team, which I'll help run and have actually a little bit of ownership in it. And then through Paul, we'll have food and beverage. So we'll run all that in there as well. And there's going to be a convention space in there. So there'll be luncheons and banquets and all kinds of things going on, trade shows.
But that's not been an easy endeavor. You've been putting a lot of energy into getting this thing off the ground.
It's been taking some time, and I hope no one gets discouraged by the time that it's taken, because this is going to happen and it's going to be wonderful for our community. But there's been little bumps in the road. They just haven't been able to come up with all the money yet. But it's getting close.
Good.
It's getting close.
Good.
Yeah, we need to raise probably about, for a $62 million project, $5 million.
Oh.
Once we do that,
not bad.
then our finance people can go out and sell the certificates of participation, which they said, based on the amount of money we have and the amount of money coming in, they're confident that they can generate over $40 million for the project, which means $5 million, and they'll do that as soon as we raise this last $5 million.
Okay, and so how much have you raised today?
Just $4.5 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, that's got to be so exciting for you to have this next chapter.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it.
And are you a hockey fan? I
am. I grew up in a little town on the Canadian border in northern New York playing hockey. I skated going back to when I was 5 or 6. Played going right up through my high school. I didn't play college hockey. I wasn't good enough. I tried out.
Oh, you did?
I did try out. I just wasn't there. But I had a couple buddies of mine I played with played college hockey.
Oh.
So, but when we go to Canada, we play like the Canadian C teams.
Yes.
You go to a small town, they'd have an A team, a B team, and a C team.
Right.
Our little town of Waddington, New York, played the C teams just because we're so small, and anyone that tried out made the team. So you had the best player on the first line, the worst player on the second line. I mean, it was small. It was a small operation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we had the best and the worst from our town on the same team.
You're so lucky to be involved in both of your passions, baseball and
Yep,
and
I agree.
hockey.
And hockey was always fun, but baseball was always it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me why. Why was that?
I don't know. I think it's because my dad instilled that in me. He was such a big
he
baseball
loved
fan.
baseball?
Yeah, Yankees fan.
Oh.
Yeah. So he was a Yankees fan. There was a time in my life where I was, sometimes you do things to kind of like get under your parents' skin.
Yes.
So, well, Dad, who do you hate? Well, I hated the Detroit Tigers. Well, so I became a Tigers fan.
You did.
And then hockey season would roll around. He goes, oh, I'm a Montreal Canadiens fan. Well, who do you hate? Toronto Maple Leafs. I became a Maple Leafs fan. So I do things like that just to get under his skin a little bit. It worked.
It worked. So tell me about your relationship with your dad.
My dad, he was the guy that always coached our teams. So we were from this little town, and you always had to have volunteers coach.
Sure.
So my dad always coached all of our teams. The Little League, he never put on skates in his life, but he coached our hockey team.
Wow.
And he coached our Little League baseball team. And he wasn't very good at basketball, and neither was I, but he would take us over to the elementary school and put together a basketball program, and he'd schedule all the games. So he was very committed to youth sports.
Yeah.
And my dad, everyone just called him Reg. But Reg was, he was always there. And I remember even having a couple friends of mine who'd say after we'd grow up and talk, and they were always there, but their parents weren't there. And they go, I was always jealous of you, Greene. Your dad was always there.
Oh.
My dad wasn't.
Yes. Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
And so your passion for sports really was from
absolutely, especially baseball.
Yes.
So, and it was the only sport I was really any good at.
Okay. What position did you play?
Center field.
Okay. Very cool.
But, short and slow. I could catch anything, but you just didn't have I was physically limited. I was slow, and I was short.
Yeah.
It doesn't take you much past high school baseball.
Right. So if you were to look back throughout your life and your career, and you were able to go back in a time machine and give advice to your younger self, what would be the one thing that you would share?
Oh, well, I was quite a handful. I mean, I would tick off my parents a lot, and I think I did it on purpose. And I had when I got to college, I had that wild side. I thought it would be cool to be like the biggest partier in school. So that could have caught up to me. I survived it, and there was times when I could have went either way, and I pulled my head out and got my stuff together. But I think that starting to work with the Red Wings in Rochester, I had the right people there that gave me the direction.
Yeah.
And I was able to clean my act up a little bit. But yeah, if I look back, I'd say, God, when you were in college, you were a real dumbass.
That's great. Well, you sure aren't now. You've done so much for our community.
Thank you.
I continue to.
It's just, some days I go out there and I go, it's an honor for me to be able to go out and sit down and chat with guys like yourself and all the other leaders within the community and be able to sit at the same table.
Oh,
so it's a good
well,
feeling.
it is a great partnership. And Kevin, I thank you so much for taking the time today and sharing a little bit about your story. It's inspiring to me.
Well, thank you.
Everyone should be so lucky and fortunate to work in an area of their passion. And I admire you for that. And I hope you inspire others to do the same.
If I can, I think that would be wonderful. I'll tell you, after all these years, though, I've never burned out on it. I've never got tired of it.
Yeah.
And if I had to work year-round with the baseball schedule, it might be rough, but it's only 3 months out of the year that baseball.
Right.
Hockey's going to be a lot easier because you have a home game, maybe 2 home games in a row, and then you might not have another home game for a week and a half. Baseball, 7 games, you're home. Then you're home for 8, and then and those home stands can really beat you down because you get there at 9 in the morning. You might not get home till midnight. When you're 25, that's easy.
Yes.
When you're 58, it's not so easy anymore.
Right.
It'll beat you down a little bit, but just keep the attitude.
Yeah, that's great. Well, again, thanks, Kevin.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Community Connections with Jeff Newgard, where every episode you hear unique stories of your neighbors, colleagues, friends, and community connections. You can find our podcasts on YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, and other popular platforms. Subscribe to our channel to keep up to date on all future conversations. Equal Housing Lender, member FDIC.